when we do this in the world of energy, in mediumship, what happens is that spirit person is coming into our auric field and we're feeling there's somebody else here. And as they're blending with us, we're becoming more and more aware of their life, of who they were, their personality, maybe things about their life that are really poignant. And they too have a need when they come to speak with us. It's like an energy blending together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Today's episode of the Story of Spirit podcast is actually inspired by one of the members in MIA Academy, and her name is Amy. And Amy asked a question that it's been kind of sitting in my visibility for a little while, especially because I've had a huge influx of people into my community, which I feel so excited for. And I'm so happy that you found me here, especially if you found me over the last 3 months. Welcome to my community. And I live in the world of woo, right? So when you live in a world for a long time, you sort of forget you forget that if somebody's new to this world, they don't understand all the lingo, they don't understand all the, abbreviations and all the things. And I've got to bring it on back to the beginning. And so today it's all about understanding the energy, right? It's a beginner's guide to understanding energy and the energy for 2026 specifically. I was going to do a whole other episode, but this just dropped in. I was actually in the middle of doing something and I'm like, I got to honor this. Let's go turn on the mic. And here we are. So everything is energy, right? I'm going to start at the very beginning, my friends. I feel like Sound of Music. Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. Okay, I won't sing, but it's really about the beginning is we are energetic beings. That's science, okay? That's not woo at all. We are science. We are energy. We are science. We are energy. Energy in a physical body. There is energy that's coursing through our cells that gives us vitality. Right? That's truth. And we can measure that vitality, measure that energy using EKG and EEG monitors, right? Science can measure that. That energy coursing through your body is your vitality. And in spirituality, we would call that energy field that surrounds all living things an auric field. Now, in science, they call that your bioplasma field or your electromagnetic field. So everything that's alive has energy. Okay, you have energy. And when you are crossing, so when you are dying, when you are taking yourself to the spirit world, not taking yourself, but when your energy is leaving your body, you are dying because the vitality of your spirit is animating your body. So when your spirit is starting to cross, it's starting to move into the world of energy exclusively. It's leaving your body and it just transitions into the world of energy, which is right here. We cannot see all the spectrum of energy. Now, if you remember back to school, elementary school, when we did the prism, right? The light that refracts through the little triangle prism, and the rainbow, is on the wall, refracted light. That is the spectrum that we can see. We cannot see past that. So you think about that, it's a very small segment of the spectrum that we are aware of in our world around us. right? But there's wavelengths that are higher in frequency and lower in frequency that we cannot see, but we are affected by it. Think of x-rays, right? X-rays move through us. We can't feel it, but we are certainly affected by it. Too many x-rays and you could actually get sick, right? You could get cancer. Same thing with microwaves, right? You put your hand in a microwave, what's happening? You're going to cook your hand, right? Because we can't see it, but we could feel it if we're paying attention, because it'll feel hot, but it'll be too late. Right? Same thing with radiation. Radiation is a wavelength that we cannot see. We can only feel it because we start to get sick, right? So that there's energy that exists in the world around us that we are not able to perceive with our five physical senses. But remember, we're not just physical. We are also energetic, right? And so because we're energetic, we can also sense the world around us. This is intuition. This is being psychic, right? We can actually tap into the world around us. Here's my example. I want you to think of someone in your life that's very predominant to you. Maybe that's your child, maybe that's your husband, maybe it's your mom, maybe that's somebody, your best friend. I want you to think of them right now. I want you to see their face in your mind's eye. And I want you to feel into, well, what kind of day are they having right now? Right now. I'm tapping into my husband and I can feel that he is tired. I can already tell. Okay. And what I want you to do is write it down or make a mental note of how they're feeling. What are you noticing? It might not make sense to you, but you are feeling something if you allow yourself to. You'll feel something. Later on, when you see them today or tomorrow, so you want to pick something that you're going to see today and whenever you're listening to this, and then I want you to check in with them at 4:58 p.m. whenever you're listening to this. This is when I'm recording this. What were you feeling? Or what kind of day did you have? You know, that might be a little too wooey for some people, so you might want to go there, right? You're like, how was your day? That's nice, right? You're just like, you don't have to tell them what you're doing, right? You're just like, I'm just doing the psychic thing. You just, what was your day like? How was your day? Yeah, I was thinking about you actually around 5 o'clock. Yeah, I was kind of like, I don't know, I got this like tired feeling. Were you tired by then by chance? And they're like, no, I was fine. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. No judgment. You're like, I'm broken. No, we're not going to judgment. We're just going to be like, oh, that's so interesting. And then maybe he's like, well, actually, I was really tired. Or maybe you were thinking of your child as well. And then your child's like, oh, I'm so tired today. I had a nap at 5 o'clock. You just be open to what you're experiencing. Might not be that person. It might be something else coming in, because I know for a fact that you're hella psychic. You just don't understand it. I know it. Unless you know it, and then you know it, obviously. But we are born intuitive. We are born with the ability to tap into the spaces and places around us. And we lose that ability when we start to move into the mind to create our identity, to create safety. So we are energetic beings first and foremost. Before we even come into incarnation, we are an energetic being that projects into the physical form. And then when the baby is born, here we are, experiencing the world and coming into ourselves. So we are energy in a physical body. That means that we do have the ability to sense the physical world around us of energy. Okay, makes sense, right? So energy speaks in wavelength and vibration and frequency, right? So the higher the vibration, the higher the frequency, the lighter we feel. So when we are buoyant, we are joyful, we are happy, we are in high frequency. So, this stupid saying, I really hate this saying, high vibes only. That's where that came from. It's high vibes, it's high frequency, it's joy, happiness only. And it is toxic spirituality. All vibes, all vibes are important to the human experience, right? All of the emotions are part of our human experience. You're here to experience it all. And unfortunately, in the human condition, we only move when we are challenged, when we are feeling icky, when there's fire under us, lighting us to go somewhere. When we are complacent, happy, we are comfortable, we don't want to go anywhere because the mind craves comfort, right? But the mind is not what leads us. It's our spirit that leads us. It's the desire that doesn't make any sense to the mind. That is what leads us. It's understanding energy. Now, there is a psychology description of intuition, and that is that the subconscious is constantly caching information. So let's say you walk into a room, your subconscious is caching 80% of that and putting it into your subconscious. 20% of that is your consciousness, is your awareness. So you're aware of the music, maybe you're aware of like where your people are, you're looking around, you're trying to get yourself situated when you walk into a room, right? Now, of course, depending on your background, you might feel uncomfortable with that. You might feel excited about it. You might be looking for your people, the reason why you're there. All those things have a factor. But the subconscious is clocking what everybody's wearing, what everybody looks like, what is going on in that room. And if you feel some sort of anxiety, panic, something that's coming up, but you don't understand why, that's your subconscious triggering you that there's something in the room that doesn't feel safe to you. And then all of a sudden, out of the corner walks a man who looks like your abuser, or walks, there out comes a woman who you knew from elementary school who was your bully. Like, you don't understand it in the moment because your subconscious has clocked it, but your conscious hasn't become aware of it yet until it zeroes in on it and says, oh, that's why. So, anxiety, if you have anxiety, there's 4 reasons that I see that you can have anxiety. So, one is a neurochemical issue where you don't have as much receptors in the mind, or you don't have as much neurochemical transmitters like serotonin, different things that make you feel certain ways. Those things are off, right? That balance is off. So you need a medical intervention for that. Anti-anxiety medicine is needed to right that. Okay. So sometimes we have a biological function that needs help, right? Just like by diabetes, just like cholesterol, just like things that our body doesn't make anymore or isn't making in the right proportions, we need medical intervention for that. Joy of being born in the year 2026. Okay. Like, I'm not obviously not born in the year 2026, but being alive during this time, we have medical interventions that help us for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So if you need that because your biochemical things are off, no problem, right? That's one reason for anxiety. Second reason for anxiety is a fearful anticipation of the future. That means your mind is constantly living in an uncertain future, trying to ascertain all the possibilities of what's happening. And there's something fearful that it's always anticipating. So, this is indicative of trauma, right? Trauma of the past, something that's happened to you that caught you off guard that now you had to deal with. And so the way the mind dealt with it is we're going to become chronic overthinkers. We're going to keep thinking about what could possibly come in for us so that we are ready for every eventuality. But here's the thing with anxiety is it never comes, right? There's nothing happening. You're living in a moment that hasn't occurred yet. So where are you losing the power? The power is in the now, right? The power is in the moments that you're making choices, not what could potentially come. So we want to make good choices in the present. We want to stay present, and we want to trust ourselves that no matter what happens, I'll come out of this. You've made it out 100% of things that have happened to you. That's a pretty good track record, y'all. Like, you just have to stay present and it'll all work out for you. So, anxiety, a fearful anticipation in the future, I see this a lot with my grief clients, and I see this a lot with my entrepreneurs that are going through blocks to their manifestations, to their forward momentum. And it's then bringing them back into their body, bringing them back into presence. Mindfulness is a great one for it, but we also have to heal the root of why this was started in the beginning. You might even go back and, like, when was the first time you started to feel like, oh, I can't trust the situation anymore? Something happened and I was caught off guard. Now I have to be an overthinker, right? I'm being brought back in this moment to grade 1, Mrs. Wood's class. We were doing a craft. I still remember this. That's what trauma does, right? It imprints in your brain. We were doing a craft and I had little scissors. And this is the first time I'm so social. I was an extrovert from the womb, my mom says. And I was like cutting paper and I was like playing with it with my lip. And I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just cutting my lip, actually. And of course, it sliced through my lip. And I started to cry because it was like blood everywhere. And I went to the teacher, and the teacher said, "Who did this to you?" And I'm like, somebody. I didn't want to admit that it was me because I felt so stupid that I had done it to myself. I knew I did it to myself, but I didn't want to say it. And so she's like, "Tell me who did this to you." And I was like, and I'm crying and I'm trying to like say something, but I don't want to say anyone's name because obviously there's nobody. And then she marches me to the principal's office and holds me in front of the principal. And she said, "Tell the principal who did this to you." And I said, "It was me. It was me. I did this to myself. It was me." And they both looked at each other with this knowing look. He's like, "Okay, don't do it again." And the teacher bandaged me up and I had to go back to class. And I was so embarrassed. I marched straight home after school. I didn't talk to nobody. I was already an outcast because I'm a child of immigrant parents. My mom's dressing me with clothes that she's sewing from bargain bins at the fabric land and cutting my hair. Already I didn't feel like I fit in. And here was that. So, obviously I learned lying is terrible and keep scissors away from your mouth. But in that moment, I was caught off guard. And I do remember that after that, I almost lost my whimsy. I started to really think things through, being extra safe with things and not, I guess, just not being a child, really anymore, which it's kind of sad, but also, I mean, part of my life lessons. Like, why would I put the scissors to my lips? Right. So, I mean, it's so innocent and benign, but you just got to think back to your life if something like that happened for you. And it might just come up as I was not talking about my story. So, anxiety. Number 2 is a fearful anticipation of the future. Number 3, anxiety can also be feeling the world of energy, but not understanding what it means. So, budding mediums often have this feeling that they can feel something else is here, but they don't know what it is, right? And so I've never had anxiety my whole life, right? I'm present. I can trust myself. I mean, I can overthink things, but I'm like in the moment. And when spirit started to come back in again after I had my last child, I could sense the world of energy around me even more. Right. So we all have the ability to sense the world of energy around us. But if you're a psychic medium, if you're a medium, then you're a psychic. So if you're a medium, you have the ability to sense other people's loved ones in spirit. So we go back to the world of energy. When you take your last breath, your energetic presence, that is you, right? Your soul moves into the world of energy, and your body is now dead. There's no energy, there's no vitality animating it anymore. So that energetic field that is you is now in the world of spirit. The world of spirit is right here. A lot of religions call it heaven, but heaven's right here. It's really about vibration, right? And if you've had a really good life, you're very loving, you're a good person, you understand that there's transition, whether that's God or heaven or whatever it is, you will transition into the world of spirit with a lot of love with ease. Now, if you've had a traumatic birth, if you're a traumatic death, sorry, if you've had really hard things happen to you in your life, you might not transition as easily, but you always transition with someone else there. So your loved ones know in spirit that you're there. I can tell you, I've walked many people into spirit, many men. I've channeled for many, many spirits, thousands at this point, and they all have said to me that there was someone waiting for them. Someone waiting for you. You never cross alone. I know this with absolution. I will bet everything on that. Now, we have free will, right? As spirits, we have free will to do what we desire. So if there is an opportunity to up level my life, let's say to start the podcast, for example, and I had said no because of my fear, then I would not have started the podcast, obviously. But there was so much pressure. I know my soul was like, this is our checkpoint. We got to go. We got to do this thing. It would have just built and built and built until I finally had to say yes. I mean, it was so easy. How could I not say yes the way that it was presented to me? And it had to be presented that way. Otherwise, I had to said no. So what's meant for you will always find you. Right. So when we come back to spirit, right? So our energy then transitions into the world of energy. Now, as a beginning medium, I did not understand what this all was, right? I didn't understand intuition, psychic, energy, all the things. And so what would happen is I could feel something and my heart would start to race. and then I would start to sweat, and then I would get scared. And I could feel like I was having a hard time catching my breath. And I was like, I don't know what this is. And my best friend from my childhood, like, has had anxiety her whole life. And she's like, oh, Sheetal, you're having a panic attack. You're having anxiety. And I was like, no, I've never had anxiety in my life. She's like, no, you're having anxiety. Like, this is the heart racing, the clammy hands, the sweating, the can't catch your breath. Like, all of those things are anxiety. And I was like, huh. And then when I started to work with my gifts, my anxiety went away. Because what happens when we're working in the world of energy, we're blending with energy. So because energy just can come in and go in, right? It's blending together. Think of it like water. Water, it likes to simulate energy. So remember when we put like a food coloring, right? So we dye 1 cup of red and 1 cup of blue, and then we mix it in a bowl together. What would happen is they start to swirl together, and eventually it'll turn purple, right? So when we do this in the world of energy, in mediumship, what happens is that spirit person is coming into our auric field, and we're feeling who there's somebody else here. And as they're blending with us, we're becoming more and more aware of their life, of who they were, their personality, maybe things about their life that are really poignant. And they too have a need when they come to speak with us. So speak with us. It's not really a speaking, it's like an energy blending together. So if you don't understand what's happening to you, you can be like, oh my God, I think I'm dying. Or like, I'm having all these flashing images. I don't understand what this is. Like, you can literally think you're going crazy when actually you're a medium. So a lot of times, psychic mediums who have these abilities have anxiety, and until they develop their gifts, that anxiety will not go. And when they develop their gifts, their anxiety goes away. So I've had a number of budding mediums come into my development group. I do have a mediumship development group, and they have, with the support of a doctor, has gone off their anxiety meds, because all their life they thought they had anxiety when really they were psychic mediums. So not everybody who has anxiety is a psychic medium. Okay. I'm just going to say that because somebody out there is like, oh my God, I'm a psychic. No. If you've had experiences with other people's loved ones, knowing things about people that you just could not know, that is your psychic medium. So we all have the ability to feel our own loved ones in spirit. So if you think about your grandparents, that who you grew up with, or someone in your life that you care very much for, that has crossed into spirit, that has passed away, their energy is familiar to you. So when they come to visit you, let's say in dreams, or you're thinking about them, you actually bring them to you when you think about them. They can hear you and they come to visit you. So if they're visiting you, you can feel their vibration, you can feel their energy. Maybe you smell their perfume. Maybe you have an experience of a flashback to a time that you guys were together, right? Or you just get this feeling, or you almost feel like there's a warm, tingly hug coming into you. That is them visiting you, because it's energy to energy. Makes sense. So this energy, we live in the world of energy, but yet you've probably never thought about it, right? Never thought about it. So you're just like, I'm a human, I'm here doing my thing, But actually, there's this huge world of energy that we live in. We're in a soup, and yet we have no idea. And when you know how to use that energy, you manifest. You create with intention. You can change things, and it is wild, right? Absolutely wild. Now, when we think about the world of energy in terms of the global, right, the world, we are on this earth hurtling through space, right? We are in a solar system, we are circling the sun, but the solar system is also traveling through space, and space has an energy as well, right? So when you think about where the sun is in relation to the earth, that changes the seasons, right? So we go through these cycles. So I'm going to be doing a cycles workshop later in the year to understand cycles for you, in terms of you're going through your own cycles. We are all going through cycles. You go through your cycles for your birthday. We go through cycles of the season. We go through cycles of the moon. All of these cycles are part of our ebbs and flows, right? You are supposed to ebb and flow. You grow and you contract. You grow and you hibernate, right? Like, nature isn't always growing. The only thing that's always growing is Cancer. So we cannot expect to grow all the time. We also need rest. We need recalibration. We need release. We need shedding. it is not always growth and love and sunshine, right? We are here for the full spectrum. So when we think about that, we are in a solar system where energy is coming onto this planet. And in astrology, that is the study of the energy that comes onto this planet. Because as everything that's happening around us is also happening within us, the world is a mirror for us. So when you notice things, when you start to come into your gifts, when you start to experience the world of energy, you start to tune into these little fine details around you. You're almost shining up your receptors and you're becoming aware of it. So we always have to have boundaries with energy. We're not just here to feel everybody's energy and everything. This is about you just understanding this is what is yours and what's not is a really important part of the beginner parts of energy work. So we go into that in the beginning lessons in MIA Academy and in my intuition classes. So that energy that comes onto this planet does affect us, right? And so the study of astrology is over 2,400 years old. 2,400 years old. It's been around the globe. It keeps moving. They tried to snuff us out, and it's older than religion, y'all. Older than religion. And yet I love when spiritual or when religious people tell me that astrology is fake. You're like, okay, but you believe a God's floating in the sky on a cloud? Like, is that real? Like, what? Tell me about that. Who wrote the Bible? A bunch of people wrote the Bible, right? Like, it's not like we don't actually have a definitive writing from people of that time. We just have stories from people who heard from stories who came after that time, So, anyways, don't get me started on that. So, energy has been studied for centuries, and we study nature as energy, right? So, the sun is an energetic source in our solar system, and we call that a luminary in astrology. So the sun gives us vitality, right? So the sun in our astrology represents vitality. It represents who we are. Now, the second part of the two major parts in our solar system are the sun and the moon. So the moon is our emotions. It's our nurturing. It's our divine feminine nature. And so the moon is considered a luminary in astrology as well. Even though it doesn't have its own energy, it reflects the sun, right? But in astrology, it's our divine feminine nature. It's our intuition. It's how we connect to our mothers. It is our nurturing. It's our emotional matrix. And so when we look at these two things in astrology, we're looking at these energies that are very predominant to us. And when I was learning astrology, my teacher said the moon is the first cosmic energy that we feel in the waters of our mother's womb. I was like, that's beautiful, considering that the moon represents mother, right? So we have been in this cosmic soup for our whole lives, right? Our whole lives, but yet this might be the first time you're hearing about this. So these energies, we can read these energies for learning, for to be forewarned, to be forearmed, my teacher used to say. So that is why I do the astrology forecast, because if you had no idea about such things, and then we're having an eclipse, which is an evolutionary jump point, it's like the energy is very chaotic during that time. And you're like, why is everybody crazy? Why am I feeling like I'm crazy? I literally just had a friend reach out yesterday and said, I am feeling like I'm all over the map. I don't know what's happening. And I look in her chart, I was like, oh, yeah, I know why you're like that. And I explained to her in very plain terms, because she's not an astrologer, this is what you're going through. You're going to feel it for 5 more days and it's going to pass, because energy waxes and wanes, just like the moon cycle, right? We are affected by the moon. We're 70% water if you're hydrated enough. And so the moon affects the tides of the earth. The moon affects the water of the earth. You are 70% water. Of course, the energy of the moon is going to affect you too. So there are statistically more car accidents, more emergency room visits during a full moon. And if you know a teacher or you are a teacher, you will know the full moon, because your students, little cute beings that are very watery, are affected by the moon. It makes us crazy. Lunacy, right? That's where the term came from. The moon is affecting us. So we have these energies that are affecting us in the earth, on the earth. And at the time you were born, all the energies that were coming onto the earth at the time you were born from all the 10 planets that we look at, we then look at that, and that becomes your signature, which we call your natal chart in astrology. So we can see what your energetic signature is. And then in human design, the body graph is your potential, your roadmap to your potential, what gifts and traits, characteristics, but also challenges and obstacles you were given in this lifetime as well. So we can see it from these two typing models because it's based on your birth time. This is why I hate the Enneagram. If you're an Enneagram coach, blessings to you, but I'm taking the Enneagram test, right? So I'm telling you how I feel in this moment. I can make the test do whatever I want, right? It is not an indication of who I truly am. It's just who I am in that moment. But astrology and human design actually show you who you are, who you were born to be, your design. And when you start to learn about yourself in these basic ways, you're like, oh my God, that is exactly how I feel. It's almost like a deconditioning, a deprogramming comes through when you learn about these models, not models, these personal development tools, because it is your roadmap to your potential. And you're given so much potential in this lifetime. You couldn't possibly realize all of it. You just can't. So that is the energy coming onto this planet. Okay. Now, there are certain models, not models, I'm going to say modalities that talk about energy as well, right? So numerology is one of those models. And so numbers carry frequency. Numbers can carry energy. So when you look at the number and the frequency of like the number 1 versus the number 9, you can kind of see what's going to be different about that, right? 1 is a beginning, 9 is an ending before it hits 10 or 0, right? In numerology, it only goes to 9. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And each number carries a frequency, a challenge, and a gift. I mean, more than one challenge, but challenges and gifts, right? So each number has an energy. And the energy can be translated to practical knowings and understandings. So, for example, an energy of 1 is beginnings, right? It's growth, it's learning, it's also shedding and releasing to make space for the new, right? It is the beginning of mastery, right? So it's just the beginning. Like think of Mozart learning music, right? He might have been a little frustrated because he knows what he wants to do, but he can't do it because he's got to learn how to do it, write the notes and play the piano and all the things. So it's this beginner part of it, right? Beginning is hard for us humans. Think of a 9, right? 9 being the opposite of a 1. 9 is a culmination. Right now, all your hard work has come to fruition. So there's celebration, there's a recognition, but also maybe some things didn't come together and it's time to let those go. So it's a realizing, a letting go, a shedding, an endings, relationships. So many relationships ended last year, right? So many people died last year as well because it was their time. Their spirit is like, okay, I'm ready to go now. Right? I've done what I came here to do. So, when we think about numerology, each of those numbers carry a vibration and a frequency. So, each year we look at that number to see what to expect. And then we place our bets, right? It's not like you're like banking on it. It's like now you have agency. You have the ability to start to do something about this energy. So you have free will. Remember, that's always in play. So, for example, in a 9 year, I knew there was things coming together. Now, in my own personal astrology chart, I was in a different year. So that's a whole other energy, but we can look at things that way as well. So there's again cycles, right? All these different cycles. In numerology, my numerology also follows the numerology of the collective. So I am in an energetic 1 year this year. I can feel that energy coming in. But right, cycles, right? This I don't really go according to the calendar. I mean, it's nice, fine and dandy. January is a nice start, but I actually feel the energy come in when when the sun moves into Aries, which is the astrology new year, right? And that doesn't happen till March. So it is not now. Like if it's not now for you, it's not now for you. It's okay, right? You have to listen to how you are feeling. I've heard a lot of people say, I feel like it's a slow start to the year. Yeah, because this is the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar follows the popes deciding of these things, and also then encompassed pagan holidays and started to make them Catholic. So, again, a podcast for another day, I think. But the Gregorian calendar isn't real, right? The Mayan calendar, the astrology calendar, the human design calendars are all different. Even like Asia used to follow the lunar calendars, which is more in sync with our ancestors. And there's 13 then lunar years because there's 13 cycles and new moon and full moon cycles, right? And so they were following the lunar years to ascertain birthdays. So they were a lot younger in Asia because their year is 13 months, not 12. So they went, actually, just in the last 3 years, have gone to what we are using in the West for time. So it's wild, right? I mean, they followed energy, they followed the moon cycles, which is fantastic. And the Lunar New Year for Chinese New Year starts when the sun goes into Aquarius, which is in February. So energy is subjective. I hope you heard that in here. Energy, we can understand the energy for certain periods of time for the collective, and then you have your own energy. So when we look at numbers, for example, and we add up your birthday, then we can get your your path number and all these. There's lots of numerology things in there that you can learn about your soul number, your path, your this, your that numbers, lots of numbers in there. You can be interested in that. You can look that up. And there's lots of free numerology.com is fantastic for that. You can just go on there and type in your birthday or even your name. Your name has an energy as well, right? Your house number has an energy as well. I love house number energy. It is so accurate. You just add up the numbers of your house. So I'm in a 6th house. And when I look up the numerology of a 6th house, it is bang on to what we've experienced in this house. So, and it's interesting because we always seem to be in a 6th house as well, not on purpose. It just seems to happen that way. So there is energy all around us. Your house carries energy, right? Your name carries energy. You carry energy. I mean, your name is your calling card, right, in your life. So if you were to give me your name, just your name, I could write a whole reading about you. I used to have a write your name reading. I think it was something like that, a name in a reading, whatever. It's one of the classes that we do in the intuition, the advanced intuition classes, because a name carries frequency, right? When you think of the word Sheetal, even my name in Hindi is actually Sheetal. So my Indian friends call me Sheetal, and my Caucasian friends, everyone else calls me Sheetal. Even my husband calls me Sheetal, right? And my parents call me Shitu. So, and I have a ton of nicknames, but that's a story for another day. But that energy is also different, right? When you think of Sheetal versus Sheetal, can you feel that? Right? Sheetal means a cool breeze in Hindi. And my parents named me that because they didn't want me to have my dad's temper when I was young. My dad has since gone for healings and meditations and all the things. Now he is such a cool cucumber, but he was very volatile when we were growing up. And so that temper inspired my name, right? Sheetal. And Sheetal is actually a very common name in India. And I believe there's a bunch of department stores named Sheetal as well. So that name, when you think about me with my family and me and my Indian community, Sheetal, I'm softer. I'm kind of a different person, right? Because that's like my culture expects that of me. Not anymore. Let's be honest. I'm me wherever I go. But Sheetal is a more authoritative word. It's like you can feel that, right? The tell. I tell you stuff, right? I love to share knowledge. And then my last name, even like Lotia, was my maiden name. Story is my married name. Yeah, Sheetal Story is my real name, y'all. Someone's like, "Is that a real name?" I'm like, "Why would I?" I mean, I guess, is it my stage name? And do I need a stage name at this moment in time? No, it's my real name. I married into that name, and I love it. And then it just inspired my business and inspired the podcast and all the things, right? So your name is so powerful for energy. So even think about it, right? If you have a nickname, what is the sound of your nickname? If people call you names that you don't like, but because that's what it's happened, that's the way it's happened since you were a child, think about that, right? What's the energy of that name? When people say to me, "Well, yeah, I go by this name and go that name," I said, "Okay, which name do you prefer?" Because names carry frequency. So the name you choose is a name that's going to tell me a lot about you. And then they're like, oh no. And I was like, no, I want you to feel it in your heart. What feels like a truly you name? I remember sitting on my bed. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I'm like, Sheetal or Sheetal. I could tell people my real name and make them pronounce it right. I can't. Like Sheetal is it's a very Indian Hindi name, right? And so not everyone can pronounce it that way. I know you're probably trying to pronounce it right now. We're realistic to this. It don't. Yeah, don't. I'll correct you if you try to call me by my Indian name and you can't pronounce it. Even my husband, I'm like, don't. But that is a very, like to insist on that. I had to choose. I wanted to choose. I wanted to be intentional. Even at 7, I knew that I wanted to be intentional with how people called me and what my name was. How choosy are you? How choosy are you about your name, right? Do you correct people when they get your name wrong? Or do you like, nah, it's fine, right? That also tells me a lot about you too. It should tell you about you too when you start thinking about that. Everything is energy. And when you start to think about that, you start to think about, oh my gosh, this house is a 6th house. Oh, my name carries a this frequency, right? Something I'm noticing with this younger generation is that they're changing their names whenever they want. I know like 4 people that have changed their names legally. Not just they go by this nickname, they legally changed their name because they felt the frequency of this name was more who they are in their life. And I was kind of fascinated by that. This younger generation, my son has a number of friends that go by totally different names than what they were born with. And I was like, this is so fascinating. I was born in the 70s, 1977, late 70s, let's be honest. But there was no changing your name, like you are who you are. I remember I worked at Moxie's going through university, and this lady came in, and her name was Anastasia. And Anastasia was a model. So she went by a model name. And every time we call her Anastasia, she wouldn't answer. And we're like, Anastasia, like, do you go by Anna? Like, what's up with your name? You don't ever respond. And she's like, oh, I changed my name and I haven't really gotten used to my new name. I was like, why did you change your name? She's like, well, that's my modeling name. I was like, or you could just have a modeling name. You don't actually have to change your name and maybe like get used to it. But everyone in her life called her previous name, but she gave us her legal name, right? So we had to call her Anastasia. And I remember thinking that was so stupid back then. But that is not like that informed me at the beginning. And then when my son said, I'm changing my name. And I was like, what? Are you changing your name? I I don't know about that. And our rule is that we always support our children. So what they feel like on the inside, we help them express it on the outside, and we're very supportive of them. So I was like, okay, let's talk about this. Well, you want to change your name too? And he tried a few different things until we landed on one that he loved, and it's now his name. And we've actually changed it legally. But these kids of today, right, they all are changing their name. They're all going by a different name. And I was talking to my girlfriend Elise about this, and I said, it's so fascinating to me that they're naming themselves. And she's like, it makes sense to me. She said, if I could go back, I went by a different name in junior high and high school. I was like, what? Really? She's like, yeah, I went by this name. And I was like, oh, wow. She's like, yeah, I would have totally changed my name to that. And I was like, but she looks like that name too. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so wouldn't you want to name yourself, right? When you think about it, like, yourself, what fits you, right? If you could name yourself a name, what name would you choose for yourself? And I think we're seeing with this younger generation that they're like, this is my frequency, this is who I am, and this is my name now. And I think it's a reclamation, right? Of course, the older generation's like, this is stupid. I don't know. You should go by your given name, blah, 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 blah. Why? Because you gave it to me? Like, no, we chose, my son's name with so much love. So there was grief when his name changed. And when the legal papers came, I did cry because there's grief in change. There always is. And his current name is so him. It is him. It just feels weird even calling him by his old name. I don't. It doesn't even fit. The person he is today is the name that he has today. That energy and frequency is so powerful, and it's not the name that we gave him before. So it's really interesting when you think of the power of a name. So now, when we think about the power and the energy of 2026, y'all, 2026 is a 1 year. So 2 plus 2 plus 6 is 10, but there's no 10 in the numerology. It's 1 to 9, right? Then there's also master numbers 11, 22, 33, 44, things like that. But that doesn't jive here, right? This is a 10-year, which then moves to a 1 year, right? 1 plus 0 is 1. So we go to 1 digit. Next year will be an 11-year. That is a master number. And 2027 is a very powerful year, human design and astrology. So we are birthing that year right now, right? But this is a 1 year. So this 1 year is about beginnings, right? It's also still endings. There's energy to that, which I talked about already, right? Endings, beginnings, being new, learning the ropes, learning new modalities, stepping into out of your comfort zone. Not a comfortable year for anybody, right? This is going to be a brand new year. And this is why my mantra for this year is to go big, right? Go big. If I'm going to be uncomfortable, I might as well be effing uncomfortable. I'm doing this, right? Like this, no show notes today. This is all from me, right? And I didn't think about I just knew I had to do this beginner energy podcast. But yeah, this year is all in. And so I'm going to be uncomfortable. Yeah, okay. Let's embrace the uncomfortable. Let's lean all the way in to that edge because it's going to come. So there's going to be disruption this year. If you're holding on to any old patterns that are not supporting you, guess what's going to happen? The universe is going to take that and throw it in the ravine. Just throw it away. Like I want you to see it like throwing it off, your little safety blanket. It's going to rip it from your hands and throw it off the cliff and be like, now what? Right? Who are you without the safety? You are amazing. Go shine your light. I think this is a year too where we're really going to have to step into our gifts and own them and come into community. I'm feeling that so much, this coming together. You don't have to be new by yourself. You can come in and be new with me, right? Because we're all new together. But I'm just doing it with intention and awareness because I understand energy. We're the way showers, right? We are here to show you the way while we walk it with you. I'm the guide on the side. I'm not the guru on the mountain. Or I'm still going through it too. You heard this podcast, y'all. Like I'm telling you all the things. I'm not perfect. I am also learning a lot as I'm going with you. But I like to share what I've learned with you so you can shortcut, so you can get to the other side faster, right? We can do this together. You can trial and error it yourself, and I can be like, yes, girl, do it, right? I understand. Sometimes you're going to have to learn it yourself. Sometimes you can learn from me. Either way works. And then the other numerology of this year, other energy to look at is the Chinese Zodiac. So the Chinese Zodiac goes from the Lunar New Year being when the moon goes into Aquarius. So that kind of changes a little bit each year. This year, I believe it's February 17th or in the 19th. I'm pretty sure I already said it in a previous podcast, but you'll be seeing it because I'll be talking about it on the Astro Forecast and on my social media as well and in the newsletter. And that is the beginning of a new energy. So the Chinese Zodiac goes according to Chinese numbers, animals and elements. And it's a very intricate system. It changes out. It's very, very cool. You can look yours up if you've ever been to dim sum or a Chinese restaurant and you got those, place mats that had your year and you're like, oh, you're the year of the pig. I'm the year of the snake. And my brother, my family, every time I sit down, I'm like, oh, I had no idea. I don't even remember what I am anymore. I have to look it up. So it's really fascinating if you were to look up the Chinese Zodiac and look up your birth year, it will tell you it's for that year. So it goes by year, not by months. So you have to look up your year. Now, when that energy changes for the year, for the collective, it is also fascinating to watch. Now, I just watch it and it's been so accurate for me. Now, you've been hearing it a lot on social media because it's very market worthy, it's very marketable. So, we are coming out of the year of the wood snake. So the wood is persevering, right? It is buoyant. It needs to be carved out. It is natural. And the snake is wise, but it's shedding, right? It's very discerning. It chooses its timing. And so that snake energy always comes with an element of grief because we are shedding and releasing parts of our past that are complete, that are done. So, where does that work in your life? So, when you're applying energy in your life, you want to ask yourself, does this make sense for me? What in my life have I been shedding, releasing, patterns ending? I am ready to let go of these things, right? The snake is and discerning, right? It's very cerebral. It's very cunning. It's a smart, smart animal, reptile. You know what I mean? And so that energy of the wood snake, you can actually Google the energy of the wood snake in Chinese Zodiac, and you can see all the characteristics for that year. So we are ending that year in February. So January still has that energy. But you've been seeing, I'm sure, a lot of posts about the fire horse. Oh my God, it's a year of the fire horse. Yeah, not till February, y'all. So we're still in the shedding. That's why nothing feels like it's going fast. And when we don't understand something, we think it's stupid. So people are like, oh, this is stupid. I don't feel like any fire horse energy. Yeah, because it's not happening till February and not till like the end of February. Energy waxes and wanes. It's not like February 17th, bam, now it's fire horse energy. Like, no, we're going to start to feel that fire horse energy coming in February and then really coming in as the months go on. Now, fire horse is fast. And fire, what does it do? It burns and it transforms. Again, not an easy year, right? This is not an earth year. This is a fire year. So this is about initiation, passion, drive, motivation. What's your passion? What is your drive? Are you really lit up by what you do? And fire horse, the horse is fast. It gallops. It's always so a little skittish, y'all, right? Horses are prey. So they're meant to run. They are very skittish and they are very intuitive. They can tell if you're a good person or not. Right? They bite when they're not happy. So I keep my distance from horses. I've never been by horse, but I have reverence for them. They're such beautiful, powerful animals, and they're so smart. And they're also so, so intuitive. So this is going to be a year about passion, drive, and going after what you desire. But if you go after something out of a pattern of the past, it will burn you, right? We're no longer available for these patterns that are keeping us out of our gifts and talents, keeping us attached to other people's judgments and opinions of us. I promise you, when you take your last breath, you're never going to say to yourself, I'm so glad I followed what everyone told me. I'm so glad I did what everyone wanted me to do. You're going to be like, screw that, right? I did it my way. I followed my intuition. I followed my spirit. I followed my desire when it made sense to no one else. And the rewards and the exciting life I lived. Oh my goodness. The people I met, the things I experienced. That is what the fire horse is going to bring in for the remainder of the year. So when we understand energy, we can start to surf the waves of the energy, right? Now, knowing this and listening to this podcast, you can never go back to your mundane life again. You're going to notice things like the way people say their names. You're going to notice the energy of spaces and places. You're going to look at numbers now and try to get it down to the one number and see, this is a one house. Oh, I know ones are about beginnings, right? When have you been beginning? I have a friend who's in a 9 house. We were just having a talk about this actually over the weekend. I was like, you're in a 9 house? And she's like, yes. I said, like, you have just had so many endings in this house. Have you thought about moving? And she's like, well, there's so many reasons that I can't. So I was like, and she also ushers a lot of people through endings in their life and rebirths and stuff. So it makes sense that she'd live there. So I just thought it's fascinating when we understand the energy around us, the energy of our name, the energy of our address, the energy of the year, the energy of our birth, right? The energy of our charts, our human design. We start to have tools that help us understand why, because the mind is always wanting the why, right? So when we look at the astrology, that's why I love astrology so much. Like when my friend messaged me and it's like, I'm feeling turbulent right now. And I'm like, 5 days, girl, just hang in there. You'll be better in 5 days time. And it's teaching you these lessons right now. This is why you're going through this. She's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Thank you. Astrology readings are the best, honestly. And sure enough, I started to feel better after 5 days because it shows you how the energy is flowing. So when we surf those waves of energy, right? I want you to think like you are a boat, You are a boat afloat on the waves of energy in this world. And on your boat, you have a motor. Your motor is your decisions, it's your mind, right? You can make all the decisions, but if you're trying to fight the current and you're making decisions because this is where I'm supposed to be in this job, I went to school, I have all this knowledge, I'm supposed to be here for a reason. But your heart's like, I can't go to this work anymore. Like, I'm dying inside. I literally am dying inside. The motor, you are fighting the current, right? You're not going to move anywhere. You're literally going to stay in place. Things are going to get worse until you do something different. So the motor is useless. I mean, sometimes it's good when you're in the current and you're flowing with things, but you have the ability to turn the boat based on your decisions as well, right? Now, sail, you can harness the winds, and the sail is your intuition. So when you harness the energy of what's happening and you flow with your intuition, you're flowing with, okay, all things in divine time. This isn't happening, this relationship. I'm waiting for my man to come in or my woman to come in. Nothing's happening. I don't know why I got a southern accent there. But nothing's happening. It's because it's not the right time. So we pull out the sail, right? I was reading a story. It's one of my human design memberships that I'm in. And she was talking about that this woman wanted to be in a relationship. And so she was on all the apps, dating all the sites. She was going to the speed dating. She was doing that. She had a dating coach, all the things. 6 years, nothing, nobody. She was frustrated. So she got a human design reading with my teacher. And my teacher gave her some pointers. I would say from a coaching perspective, I would say you're trying too hard, right? The energy of wanting is repelling. It repels from you. I wanted so bad. Guess what? You're choking off your intuition. You're choking off the support from the universe when you want. So instead, I desire, I let it go, and I'm going to go have so much fun. So the advice I would say as a coach is I want you to go and take up something that feels joyful on your heart, right? I have a dear friend who's taking up cross-country skiing. Ran into an old friend she hasn't seen in years and years and years, and they reconnected because that person's also taking up cross-country skiing. So, like this, you be in the places that you are having fun, that you're experiencing amazing parts of your life, and let your person find you. Be so magnetic and so joyful and so full of yourself with happiness, joy, and fulfillment that when somebody else finds you in that place, they're like, oh my gosh, I have to get to know you. And that's where sparks happen, right? So she actually said the same thing, but through human design, was that she had to be in spaces that really lit her up. And that's exactly right, right? When we understand energy, we can act accordingly. And the higher your frequency, the better. That's why we heal. And then we also have joy and we just follow our intuition and then create safety with it around the mind, right? So the mind comes last. Remember, spirit, body, mind. So I hope this has helped you understand astrology, numerology, energy, and how do you surf the waves of energy? Listen to your heart, listen to your gut. How do you feel? How does this person make you feel? How does this place make you feel? How does your name make you feel? You might want to change your name. Yay. Who cares? Do what you want, right? Yeah, you're like, oh my God, my mother would die. Good. Good, mom. You know what? To you, that name that you've identified me as is no longer relevant. That might be a little harsh truth, to share with your mom, but she's going to have some grief. Okay. Okay. Guess what? We're not here to protect people from grief. Grief is going to be an inevitable part of being a human. Your job is to be you, to become and find your way back to yourself. And energy is just a tool. I mean, energy is you, it's your essence, but using energy as a tool is so healing. It's magnetic, it's manifesting. The world of energy creates, right? It creates. You're an alchemist by nature. So go create. So I hope this helps you to understand energy, helping understand anxiety potentially, what happens with mediumship, what happens when you take your last breath, that you are energy, you have an auric field, and anything with a field of energy, anything that is energy, this is science, y'all, it's not woo-wee, is magnetic. That is science. So you have an energy field that means you're magnetic. So what are you magnetic for? It's what you're thinking about, dreaming about, talking about. And what you don't heal, you also attract. Yes, that's why we date our problems until we heal them. So please share this with any newbie in your life. I don't really love the term newbie. I'm going to say the seeker in your life. Anyone who's interested in energy or is like, I don't get it. There's practical applications for all of this. That's what this podcast is about too, right? Applying all of these things in real time, in real life, so that you can see results in your life, right? That sail is so powerful. That sail is more powerful than the motor, actually, right? So surf these waves, my friends, and I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legalese that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.